Welcome back to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS, presented by Fisherman's Marine and Outdoor. Now, it's real time.
Wilcome back, everyone. We have Chris Bertopoulos, owner-operator of Chris V's Guide Service here in the studio on a Saturday when the Columbia is open, the Willamette's open, but you don't fish Saturdays anyway.
Oh, I do sometimes.
Sometimes.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's good to see you. All right, now, fan favorite, man. I'm telling you right now, you are a fan favorite. So when we get a chance to get Chris in, we're going to take advantage of it. Today, though, we're going to get into talking about a little bit of a different topic than maybe what we've talked with Chris in the past. Catch and release sturgeon in the estuary of the Columbia River. Absolutely phenomenal fishery. But what have you been up to? You get a chance, this is the time of year where he goes out and has some fun. What have you been doing?
Some fun. That's what I've been doing. I've been going, I went down to the Sacramento and fished with my good buddy Dan Ponciano down there for stripers.
One of our top guides here in the Northwest.
Yeah, and had a good time doing that, and they are excellent to eat, by the way. I just had some a couple nights ago.
Now, he mentioned that. I've never had striped bass before. Top 5, top 10?
Well, I'm kind of tired of salmon, so rockfish is one of my favorites, and it reminds me a lot of a very firm, flaky rockfish.
Okay,
and
interesting.
It'll take on the flavor of anything that you cook it with or fry it with or any sauce you put on it. Real delicate, mild, tasting fish, but very tasty.
Interesting.
And so I've been doing that. I've been shrimping up in Hood Canal, went fly fishing on the Deschutes for a couple days for the red sides, for the salmon fly hatch, which is going on now.
Yeah.
And just doing stuff like that. Of course, projects around the house and stuff too, mowing lawns and all that
Rick
stuff.
Safko, if you're out there, call us up, man. We'd love to get a live report from the Deschutes, man. Don't be so stingy with those reports. You mentioned shrimping up north. How'd that go?
It went pretty good. We had to work a little harder for them than usual, but we got all our shrimp and our limit before the 1 o'clock cutoff. So that was good.
Interesting.
And I'm going to go do that one more time, it looks like, before they give us 4 seasons in South Hood Canal Marine Area 12. And I'm only able to go twice, maybe only once this year because of previous stuff I have on the calendar.
Do you drag your own gear up there?
Yeah.
You do? Okay.
I've got the electric puller, and I've invested in all the equipment, the traps and everything, and kind of got it figured out. And
what kind of bait do you use?
Just a mishmash of fish stuff and pellets and cat food.
I've heard that,
yeah. It's a stinky bait mess, but that's what the shrimp like.
Yeah,
so.
Well worth it. Those things are fantastic for crying out loud.
Yeah, that's why I keep going.
Yeah. Now, wouldn't that be a good meal, though, to have some of that shrimp with some of that with that striped bass?
I couldn't think of a finer meal.
Oh, my God. Now, he mentioned getting a little bit tired of salmon. I don't think my family is ever going to get tired of salmon. We've been fortunate this year to go through quite a few of it. But Bruce Pauly, he just gave me some of that bluefin tuna that he came back with. So I'm looking forward to giving that a go here shortly.
That's food of the gods.
I'm telling you. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can do it. Anyway, listen, we're not going to get sidetracked. I always got to check in with my guests and see what they've been up to. And he's been having a lot more fun than I have. Chasing springers at all?
A little bit. A trip or two a week. I got a trip on Monday. It hasn't been very good.
No.
And it's going to be open on Monday on the Columbia. I think that's the last day of this segment. And I'm going to go to the Columbia because the Willamette's been very slow.
It has been. It's been really a weird year overall. Just this past week has just been really tough for some very, very, very good fishermen. If they are not getting bit or being consistent in any way, you're not alone, everyone. You're just like me. I mean, just everyone out there it's been a bit of a grind. But we're here to talk about estuary sturgeon, a fishery that you really enjoy doing. You enjoy taking your clients there, and I would assume for a number of different reasons, because it gives them a chance to pull on fish as opposed to just sitting around.
The main attraction is it's a lot of action. We're going to be catching fish.
Right.
And it's the super rare day that you go out and you have trouble finding them.
Sure.
You may have to move once, maybe twice, but when you land on them, it's nonstop.
Right.
And we're going to fish until your arms hurt and your back sore. And
which can happen.
Which happens.
Yeah. Now, I've mentioned this before. It's one of those places that you said land on them, right? You got to move around. You got to have the willingness to move around. You got to have the knowledge of where you should or shouldn't go, because if you make a mistake, you could be there through a tide change. Don't ask me how I know, because it's not fun. You know, when you're fishing in areas that are 3-4 feet, depending on what that tide's like, you can run out of water just like that by making a left or a right that you just didn't know was there. So let's see if we can take some of the concern away, right? There's a lot of people that are watching that have boats, know the area, They've fished there either be for salmon, maybe even for sturgeon, but they don't go because it is intimidating. It's a fishery that if you make an error, you could run into some trouble. Not necessarily where it's going to be peril, although that's always in play. But it's shallow water that you're trying to find them in. It's not like you're going to go look for an 80-foot hole. You're typically finding very shallow water.
I think that's the biggest mistake that people think about or make when they're going sturgeon fishing somewhere. Is they think they got to go to the deepest hole.
Right.
And in this case, down in the estuary, that is absolutely not the case. We're catching fish in 3, 4, 5 feet of water frequently. Deep water for me is 18 feet.
Right.
And that's an exception most of the time too. So
because you typically would avoid that and go up into the flats.
In quite commonly 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 feet of water, and 12 feet's getting a little on the deeper edge.
Gotcha.
So, and then another piece of advice I like, my personal deal is if it's 12 feet or deeper, I'm pretty much always using anchovies or the occasional herring. If it's 12 feet or shallower, I'm almost always using sand shrimp.
Interesting.
And the sand shrimp, the fish that are targeting shrimp are in on the shallows, especially on the incoming tide, and use sand shrimp. And sometimes double up a sand shrimp if they're small and use a stretchy thread. And there's so few people down there doing it that it's kind of hard for a newcomer to go down there and know where to go.
Right, because you got no reference.
Yeah, my advice would be look for the other boats, the few other boats that there are.
Right.
And if you aren't seeing any other boats, keep the tide in mind and which way it's going, but get yourself in a position where as that tide is going out, for instance, that you're not going to be high and dry in an hour. And just make it quick so that you can be mobile in a hurry if you have to.
Which is that's a great piece of advice, because you could get out there in the middle of an outgoing tide, have 4 or 5 feet of water. Yeah. And at the bottom of the tide,
you're in no water.
You're in about a foot out of water.
Another thing, don't use an anchor ball. You don't need an anchor ball unless you're fishing in the deep stuff. I use a fairly short rope. I have a 150 foot of rope, and I don't use the ball. I use what's called a Danforth anchor and a little bit of chain. It's a 13-pound anchor, and add another 6, 8 pounds for the chain that I've gone on there. Anybody can pull that up
quickly.
So just throw that thing out there, let about 10, 12 feet of scope, a line out, put it in the chalk, hook it up. That way you don't have to mess with the ball, and that takes extra time if you need to get out in a hurry.
Right.
So you don't need the ball in this shallow water.
Which does happen. I want to come back from this break and elaborate on that, but before we do that, we're going to have your Chevy Silverado Tech Tip of the Week, and what always comes up is what rod and reel combo do you like to use? What kind of setup? That's the best part about sturgeon. It's about as basic as it possibly gets. It's a setup that you would basically use for trout fishing, sturgeon fishing, catfish fishing, anything that you might think is along the bottom. Very, very simple. We'll have Chris's version of that when we come back from this break.
Outdoor GPS is brought to you by Chevy Silverado and the impressive new Turbo Max engine. Flex your muscle with the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever. Official truck of Outdoor GPS.